Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stage and Stanza. I'm Amy Griffin, and I'm the Exhibitions and Marketing Manager at Opelka Gallery. And I'm pleased to introduce the hosts for this evening. I'll let everyone finish getting signed in. Just a couple notes about things going on at the gallery before I turn it over. We have an event. The exhibition that's on right now is Judith Braun, My Pleasure. It closes this Saturday, the 23rd. And we have an event at 11 a.m. at the gallery with Dr. Robert Shane and the artist Judith Braun in conversation. He's a critic and curator who wrote about her work for the Brooklyn Rail recently, and they'll be talking about the humor in her work. And it'll be an informal kind of gallery conversation with cider belly donuts and coffee. And after that, we'll have the BFA show of Russell Sage art and design students who are getting their BFAs this semester, and that will open on the first Friday of May. Without further ado, I'll introduce Carol Durant, and she will introduce, should I introduce David or are you going to introduce David?
I'll do it.
You do. Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
Hello, welcome everybody. It's Thursday, the snow has melted and we are mighty. We're small, but we're powerful here in Albany with our two honorees, Mr. Jose Castro and Mr. Gary Hoffman, who are shining bright and making it happen here in the Greater Capital District. But first, we need to thank, of course, David Baecker, who's the host with the most, who runs the Theater Institute at Sage, as well as the Voice from Beyond, Amy Griffin, who does all things at Opelka Gallery on the Albany campus of Russell Sage College. So get your people, get your drink. We're glad to have you. You're going to hear about some fun, fantastic people tonight. David, it's on you.
It's on me. Okay, well, we're going to start tonight with, first I want to start by thanking Carol, as always. Carol organizes this event beautifully, and it's hard to believe that it's been 2 full years of doing these events together. And I look forward to a third. It's a lot of fun. And I get to meet new people. Some people I know, some people I don't know. I don't know Jose Castro. Welcome, Jose.
Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I have a bio here. It says that you were born and raised in Albany, New York, in the South End, and that you lived with a fantastic grandmother who raised you to be the man you are today. And you realized you were funny in grade school and were cracking jokes in and out of the classroom.
Yeah.
Honed your craft and transitioned from telling jokes in the classroom to on stage. And that has happened from local venues here to New York City. And you've also expanded from comedy and started acting, and has started a podcast in 2019 called Eclectic Minds.
Yeah.
And a short performance, a short list of performance stages. It's not such a short list, but the Gotham Comedy Club in Manhattan, Skylar Inn in Menands, Saratoga Performing Arts Center, the Palace, Theater, Proctor's, a whole lot of great places. So welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you. Do we start with the poem, Carol, or do we?
Well, it's National Poetry Month, everybody. I don't know if you knew that. April is the month, and as a poet, I am very thankful that we have this month, that we can highlight poems that our honorees love. And tonight, Jose's favorite poem that it speaks to him is I Too from Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat, in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you for reading that. Appreciate it.
Jose, one thing I was interested in your bio was, you realized at a young age, you realized you were funny in the classroom. When did that kind of click for you? At what
Well,
type of age and what were you doing that was funny?
well, when the teacher was saying, get out because you disturbing the class. So pretty much what it was with me was that I was always just fascinated with comedy. Some of the people that I grew up watching, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence. And I fell in love with Martin Lawrence because he was hosting at the time Def Comedy Jam. So I would watch that, all the time. I mean, I had to sneak and watch it because my grandmother wasn't trying to hear me playing those, those videos and stuff in the background because of some of the language that they had. But I just, I just like making people laugh. So I would make people laugh in the classroom and crack jokes. And that became my reputation in grade school. People were like, oh, you want to crack with Jose? And then I would just pretty much we'd be going back and forth, cracking jokes on each other. And most of the time I would win.
Yeah. At what point did it turn into more of a serious avocation for you? Were you?
Well, so in about 2003, 2004, I had a friend of mine who she got tired of me talking about doing comedy on stage because I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a big deal. You on stage and you got people expecting you to make them laugh. So I told her, so you know what, if you set something up for me, I'll do it. So what she did was she contacted Gotham Comedy Club in New York City, and they said, well, we have a open mic night. And pretty much he was like, if you can come down, the MC was like, if you can come down here, we'll give you some time. You know what I'm saying? So I had to bring like 1 or 2 people, 3 people. But a couple of my friends was like, we want to go. We want to see you. This was the first show that, I've ever done. And I was a little intimidated at first. I was like, damn, Gotham Comedy Club is kind of like, that's big. Like they got they got some of the best comedians ever walked through there, do shows. And I went down there, and I remember the first time I was there, I was downstairs and they had the comedians that was like ready to perform walking around. And then this guy had came up to me, was like, have you done comedy before? I said, I told jokes and cracked jokes in school and stuff like that. But I've told stories there. I'm pretty sure I can tell these stories tonight. He was like, okay. So I got on stage, I killed, I got off stage, and that same dude, he came up to me. He's like, you sure you ain't did this before? And I was like, I'm just, I just went with the moment, and a lot of the material and stuff like that I used at that night, it came off the top of my head. Like I wrote some stuff, but a lot of it, I just was filling the room out, and it just came naturally to me.
What's your inspiration when you're writing jokes or putting material together?
Well, my grandmother and just real life situations. At the end of the day, it just comes down to life. That's where comedians get most of their material from. It's life experiences. What makes people laugh might make another person cry, and vice versa. But some of the stories that I put together, and I hear some of the greats like Pryor and Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence and stuff like that. It comes from a place of I can't say trauma, but it comes from a place of discernment, and they use that to make the audience laugh, like some of the jokes that I used to say about in Black culture, my grandmother didn't play those games. So when I said something or did something that she didn't like, she was whipping my behind, and at the end of the day, it's like I share that with the audience, and people, oh wow, she did that to you. Like, yeah, the switch and everything like that was my best friend when I was younger and I was growing up and I was doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. She made it a habit to know, like, hey, listen, I'm grown, you ain't, and this is what's gonna happen when you get out of line. So
what was it about your grandmother that inspired comedy for you?
she's one of the most hilarious people ever. She the sayings that she had, I'll give you one of my favorite sayings. With my sister used to lie right? And she'll know that she lying. She's like, you lie like a rug, and a rug lie until it rot. Now break that down. You lie like a rug. Rugs lie flat on the ground, and rugs lie until they rot. So that pretty much means that by not any regard, you telling the truth. You lying all the time. So she would say stuff like that, and I would just, I would remember I would go into my room sometimes because I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, and I would hear some of these things, and I would sit back and have to think about it, like, damn, grandma, she a poet. Like who says stuff like that? Like, will you lie like a rug, or you lie faster than a cat can lick his behind? Like, she would say stuff like that. I'm like, damn, that person lied quick as hell. You know what I'm saying? So she would say stuff like that, and it I don't know, it made me make her want to laugh. So the things that she would tell me, and then she would say to people, yeah.
Has your grandmother seen your comedy?
No, she passed away when I was a junior in high school.
Junior in
And
high school?
I always, yeah, I tell people all the time that was to this day, that was one of the most difficult days of my life. She, how could you replace a person that meant so much to you? She was great.
Well, and it's such a tribute to her that you've taken this, and it's been so inspired, by growing up with her.
Yeah, she it was my way of pretty much kind of like honing the things that she said to me and the lessons that she provided with me, and then doing through comedy and stuff like that, and have that be on stage. And when I'll act her, I kind of put her in character when I'm on stage and stuff like that, and talk about, hey, boy, you can come over here and get your, and I do all these things about her and stuff like that. The audience, they get it, because those Black grandmothers, and she was from the South too. They're on a whole nother plateau. They don't they don't play. She's always telling me, she's like, kids be seen, not heard. So you walk into a room, and if they was having a conversation, I couldn't say anything until I had that nod that oh yeah, you can speak. What you want? And then I'll be able to talk. Oh, grandma, I just wanted to go outside. All right, well, get yourself together and take you behind outside then. But that's how she was, and I had so much respect and love for her.
How's your comedy developed over time? I mean, is the way you look at the world changed and changed your comedy, or?
Not really.
Stay-
It's funny you asked that question. One of my favorite comedians, like I said earlier, is Martin Lawrence. And in this world that we live in now, everybody is so heightened with what you can say and what you can't say. And
Right.
he said something recently that I loved, and he said that he true comedians never conform, and we don't. That's one of the reasons why I started telling comedy, Dave, is because it's a freedom there. When I tell jokes, even if it was me joking about how I used to get my behind whooped by my grandmother, or my uncle didn't pay me my $20, so I had to rob him with my ski mask on and stuff like that. It'd be stuff like those jokes, but somebody's out there gonna look at it like, that's funny. I get that, and that's what it's about. And you have to stay true to yourself. Pryor didn't hold no punches. Martin Lawrence didn't hold no punches, and these are the people that I looked up. One of my other favorite comedians too. I gotta always give him his props too. George Carlin was a genius. He's amazing.
Amazing.
Raw.
I mean, they all were.
Yeah, these are comedians that they don't hold no punches, and I love that about them.
And I think comedians, this is a day and age where it's very hard to say things you might have said 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, but comedians stay really fearless. What is it you think that allows comedians to do that?
When it comes down to it, it's the craft. It's like, the theater stuff for you, the theater, that anybody's involved with the theater and stuff like that. It's a craft. It's something that people do, they enjoy doing. And that's what it is with comedians. We get up on stage and we tell our stories. Sometimes, some nights we might kill, some nights we might have a, off night, some nights we might struggle. I'm blessed to say that I've never got booed. I've had some nights when I've told some new jokes and stuff like that, they ain't hit as hard. But you keep going, and you keep plugging, and you keep doing, and you being true to yourself. You got to stay true to yourself. That's what it's about. Like, I say this, Dave, a lot of the times people, they say things, what might hurt someone else's feelings might not hurt another group of people's feelings. But like I said, at the end of the day, is if you stay true to the craft and you do what you do and you be who you are, then that's honoring yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's big to me when it comes to the comedy game.
Well, you mentioned, George Carlin, you mentioned Richard Pryor. A lot of these were comedians who segued into acting, and that sounds like something that is an interest of yours too. Did that develop out of the comedy, or separate with comedy, or separate to it?
It kind of developed like I did the play, and I think I got the bug when I did that play because I did multiple characters, and it was the first play I ever done. That was at Steamer 10 with Annette Lawson. Shout out to her. And at first I was only supposed to play one character, and then they had some people that they showed up and then they stopped coming to rehearsals, and then they was like, well, Jose, you think you could pull this character off too? I was like, yeah, I'll try. So that's what I did. I ended up like playing like 2 or 3 characters, and then once I did that, I liked it. And it also inspired me to write my own play.
And what's that about?
Well, the play that I wrote that when I was in college. This is a while back, but I graduated from SUNY Cortland in 2010. And the play is called Unconditional Love. It's pretty much about a man that's in like a love triangle with a couple of different women, and he's trying to sort out what's his best option, not necessarily just within those women, but within himself to kind of grow up and make a decision and stop doing what he's been doing for the longest, and that's pretty much being caught up in his love triangle with these different women.
Okay. Well, what do you find like the differences are between the tools you need to do stand up and the tools you need to act in a play?
Well, I think acting in a play, you got to memorize the lines. Like that
Sure.
was one of the things. Like at first I was kind of kicking myself in the behind. I was like, damn, I can't I can't ad lib like I want to. You know what I'm saying? So I got to stick to the script. So after a while, me doing it, practicing, coming to rehearsals, whatever, I did well. Like I said, I played like 2, 3 characters. On stage, to be honest with you, Dave, some of the stuff I don't even write. I feel the crowd out, and it can come to me. The show that I did at Gotham Comedy Club, it was like I did probably a 10-minute set, probably maybe 3-4 minutes of it was written, the rest of it wasn't. The show, I opened up for Eddie Griffin, who's one of my favorite comedians as well, at the Palace Theater. That was like a 20-minute set. I didn't write none of it down. And to tell you the story about that show too, what was great about that show is that shout out to Kevin Johnson. He's a mentor as well as a person he's in charge behind the scenes at the Palace Theater now. At the time, he wasn't. He called me on a whim and was like, I'm bringing Eddie Griffin up here. And I was like, you just was in a car coming from Harlem. You should have told me. He said, well, I did tell you that. I was like, so what? When is he coming up here? He's like, he's coming up here tonight. Are you ready? I said, what you mean I'm not ready? He's like, he gonna let somebody open up from him locally. He's like, you got 20 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, Dave, I had stuff that I had written down. But when I got there, I didn't do it. I didn't do none of it. I went on stage. It was a couple thousand in attendance. It wasn't the biggest audience, but it was the biggest crowd I ever performed in front of. And then it was like he was backstage watching me. So it was like, well, I gotta kill this. And pretty much like most of that 20 minutes I did, it was off the top of my head.
Wow.
Because I just get you know what it is. You just get into the moment. You get into the moment of the comedy of the performance, and when you given the reaction, that first joke can make you or break you. So when I first came out there, I said, hey everybody, how y'all doing? Everybody good? Okay. Some of y'all sold y'all EBT cards to get in here. I know y'all ain't paid for no tickets. That just broke the who came in here with they wife or they real woman tonight. Now we ain't coming here with no side women. So that kind of like broke the ice, and then I just went from there.
See, that seems terrifying for me to go up, without a script. I like to act, and I like to act with a script, but how do you read an audience to know what to bring in as your first joke and
It's usually based on a demographic. Like, I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you. Black audiences and white audiences is different to a certain degree, right? The people think different, but funny is still funny. So the jokes can still be, they still can be universal, no matter what the crowd is. But the cultures is what make the jokes funny. So like when I came in with the the EBT joke and the who came in here with they real woman tonight, not the side chicks. Most of the audience was black and brown. So I knew they was gonna get that joke and then just run with it. So at that point, then once I got them to laugh at those jokes, the rest was just easy. I just was just hitting them back and forth after joke after joke after joke.
Wow. How did you segue into podcasting?
So I started seeing the podcast thing go, and I was saying to myself, like, I wanna be able to tell jokes on another broader platform and have people listen to me. But I also wanted it to be not just me. So I wanted to have a co-host. So I got a co-host by the name of Olivia Agosto. Shout out to her. And we worked together, at our job. And I just brought up the idea to her one day and came up with the name. And I was like, I wanted to be about jokes, but I also wanted to tackle, real issues and stuff like that too. The things that happen in this world that, I have a problem with. And, that's pretty much what we did.
Mm-hmm. What's your process for putting a podcast together? That seems like such a new thing to me. I mean, podcasts have probably been around for more years than I think, but it seems like in the last 3 years, everybody's listening to them. I wonder what your process is.
It was, pretty much we just, we create the audio because we do it on an audio platform for the most part. And we have them streamlining through, Apple Podcasts, through SoundCloud, through Spotify, so we have it once we drop the episode on one platform on SoundCloud, then we spread it all out, and then it goes on all the other platforms and stuff like that. Her boyfriend, shout out to Henry, he helps us edit the material on it, and for the most part, that's that's pretty much what we do. We just celebrated 50 episodes about a couple of weeks ago. We would have had more, but when the pandemic hit us, we was recording live right in the room with each other. So then we had to kind of convert it to Zoom and to other things with audio.
What's the process for putting one together from beginning to end?
So I'll pretty much reach out to her and say, what topic you wanted to tackle? And she'll say something like mental health. I'm like, dope. Okay, cool. What about mental health? Now, she's a numbers person. So she'll be like, let me get a couple of different, some information, some percentages, some things of that nature. And then you come up with, the things that you come up with. Like, I never really like script stuff that I'm going to say. It mostly of the time, especially with a topic like that, because I'm such a mental health advocate, I usually just speak from the heart with that stuff. I got the comedy stuff in me and stuff like that, but it's just things in life that you got to be serious about, and that's one of them. So we'll pretty much get the topic. We'll have we'll do a song of the day. Song of the day is gonna be a song that pretty much that we was listening to all week, or something that we just had in our mind, or that relates to the podcast topic itself. We'll drop the song of the day. We had some sponsors. We was lucky to get a couple of sponsors here and there, or I'll make a sponsor, reach out to a couple of sponsors and say, hey, you want to, sponsor this episode and so forth, and, plug them. And then we'll have another segment called The Message from the Heart. And that's something that Olivia pretty much wraps the show up with, and she'll, drop pretty much a strong message about the podcast episode and the topic and why it was so important and relevant to this episode and stuff like that. And then we just, about 45 minutes to an hour, just pretty much just, fill that time on just talking back and forth with the topic and the information, as well as the some of the information that she can reference from different sites, variables, pretty much reputable sites.
Yeah. So if people want to find your podcast, you say they can find it on Apple Podcasts and
Apple Podcasts. You can find it on. I've also got Facebook and Instagram. We plug the Instagram and Facebook Eclectic Minds podcast profiles. We have the links there. Those links can click pretty much to our SoundCloud, as well as it's on pretty much every podcast platform. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iTunes, all of those.
that's great. Do you have any upcoming comedy?
That's what I'm working on now. I'm actually looking to put an album together. I'm working with one of my friends. He's like a brother to me now. Shout out to Matt. We went to college together, and so he does the technical stuff, the engineering stuff and stuff like that. And I just recently went out to his house in Clifton Park, and we sat there and pretty much kind of formatted the album to discuss some of the things that I wanted to talk about and do. I kind of want to do it from a perspective of when I was growing up until like my mid 20s.
Okay,
early 30s.
good. So any timeline for that, or it's in
Well,
progress?
I'm working on it. Like I said, I pretty much I laid the I can't say I laid the foundation down. I know me. I know I'll look at it and probably like change something or come off the top of my head and do something. But he knows I'm like that, so he likes that as well. But I have to be mentally there too. I'm quite there. I'm almost there. It's one of the reasons why I haven't did shows in a while too. I think the last comedy show I did was on Fuller Road. It was like this restaurant and stuff like that. The show was all right. I did some new material. Some of it hit, some of it didn't. But I don't know. And then after a while, when the pandemic and stuff hit and you really couldn't go to comedy shows and stuff like that, whatever, I don't know. I kind of just chilled out. I wasn't writing anything. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't even watching comedy like that, to be honest with you. And that's something different for me, because I like to watch the old stuff to kind of give me that reminder of this is why you do it. This is why you love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pandemic changed all of us for at least a little while.
Yeah, it really did.
Perhaps to come. I want to give audience a time if anybody has any questions for Jose. I've got a lot of students in the audience tonight. If you have something to say, please jump in.
Shout out to the students.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience for Jose? Yeah, now I'm looking through. I see lots of. We have a good audience anyway. Lots of friendly people.
I have a question. So, we do have a question from Kaylee.
From Kaylee.
Byron.
What big
Thanks,
setbacks have you
Kaylee.
been through? I appreciate you, Kaylee. Setbacks I've been through. That's a good question, Kaylee. I'm gonna be all the way honest with you. When you're a comedian and you go on stage and you tell jokes, a lot of people think you just you got it. You just go up there, you got it, and nights, you just don't doubt yourself. There's been times when I had to learn in the past. So prime example, I would go on stage and it was like one of my biggest shows I did was at the Egg, right? And I was in the back of the stage, and it was like one of my biggest shows. It was a bunch of people. It was like sold out. One of the theaters was sold out, and it was my first time performing in front of this person that put me in that opportunity. So he was like, "Hey, listen, we got some big comedians up here too. You open up for all of them." It was like 5 comedians. All of these people have been on TV and everything. So I was like, "All right, cool." So I was pacing in the back, and when I was pacing, I was I wasn't nervous, but I was feeling this sense of anxiety. Like I gotta be the best tonight. Like not necessarily just being better than them, but just being the best to know that I could stand on the same stage with them. So I think as I started to do the comedy more, I put a lot of pressure on myself to do that, to be the best. And it almost and it did, it kind of manifested itself into some anxiety. Like I have to go on stage, I have to kill every time I have to. So that's something right now that I'm working with. I'm working on myself about that setback. Because a lot of the times, I'll be honest with you, I've turned down some shows because of it.
Yeah. Good. Thank you,
Thank
Caleb. Douglas Holliday asks, you mentioned George Carlin, one of my favorites also. What makes his comedy different or the same as yours?
Just Carlin was a genius as far as he just real life stuff. He would take just a small topic like who eats pixie sticks? Who actually likes those type of damn things? Like he'll say something like that and make a whole story about that. Like, and when I was young, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to understand the culture. I'm Black and Puerto Rican and Filipino, and that's some of the things that I just like started to realize, like, wow, this man is amazing. Even though I grew up loving Martin and Eddie Murphy, I saw his comedy and was like, yo, he got it too. Like he get it. He knows how to tell these jokes.
Yeah. Good. Anything else? Carol, yes. Carol had a question here a moment ago. There's Carol.
So if somebody wanted to book you, Jose, for an event, how would we get in touch with you?
You can reach out to me on Facebook, Jose Castro. You can send me a message and stuff. I'm also we got our Collective Minds podcast pages up as well on Facebook and Instagram. You can shoot a message through there, or you can email me at castro12210@yahoo.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And for the audience, there's birthdays, Mother's Day, and other special events
appreciate you,
out
Sheila.
there. So,
Yeah, yep. Hey,
and we'll make sure that the Eclectic Minds link, it goes up as well, just so people can get a hold of you, Jose, and your email address is already posted in
great.
the chat box.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
You bet. And Sheila, hi Sheila, how are you tonight? Sheila London asks, kudos, Jose, keep up the great work. I applaud you. Keep up the grind. When you're about to hit the stage, would you rather catch a glance of your audience prior or not, and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd rather catch a. So I did a show at the Palace Theater. I opened up for a comedian called named Donnell Rollins, and the show didn't sell the way it was supposed to. So the main stage had to be a smaller stage had to be put in place, and I couldn't see the audience. So it was pitch dark in there. I really couldn't see them, and that first bothered me. And then I kind of was like, okay, I gotta like step. I know the stage ain't that damn big, but I got to step closer to the audience so I can actually see a face. So once I started to see started to see some of the faces in the audience and stuff like that, things started to go well.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, whether you want to see the audience or not.
I want to see him, Dave. I gotta see him because most of the time too, when I see him, I start messing with him.
Yeah,
you gotta do that too.
Yeah, it helps to know they're out there. It helps to know what they're thinking.
Correct.
If they're with you or not. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Jose? Thank you, Sheila. Well, if not, we will segue. And Jose, thank you so much. I'm going to look forward to listening to
I
your
appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. And next up, we make sure that, the stars are aligning. Star number 1, Jose Castro, and 1A, Gary Hoffman. Take it away, David.
Okay. Hi, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, David. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Carol gave me a bio of yours, and lots of roles I'm going to get to read. Lots of good roles here in a moment. It says Gary's been on stage since the age of 7 and began directing theater productions in high school. And at Schenectady Light Opera, Gary has served on the board of directors and has appeared as Wilbur in Hairspray, Igor in Young Frankenstein, however he says that, Herr Schultz in Cabaret, Sidney Bernstein in Curtains, and John Adams in 1776. You also serve on the board at Schenectady Civic, where you directed The Sunshine Boys, Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will, and staged readings of The Guys and Mastergate. It looks like you played 2 roles in the Black Theater Troupe's original work, Yours, and at Albany Civic. You've been everywhere. Gary's directed Wonderful World and The Gingerbread Lady and appeared as in Shot in the Dark. He's directed Lucky Stiff for the U.S. Armed Forces in Europe while stationed in Kosovo, and just finished a run of Merrily We Roll Along at SLOC, and is directing a June production of Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And you've also appeared as Nathan Detroit in Guys and Dolls, Charlie Cowell in The Music Man, Elijah Whitney in Anything Goes, and the Rabbi and Fiddler on the Roof. But your favorite roles remain husband to Melissa and dad to Nate and Jill. And you're also on the faculty at Russell Sage College in Interdisciplinary Studies.
That's right.
Quite a career, retired from the U.S. Army at the rank of colonel, following 26 years as a military lawyer and sexual assault investigator. So where to begin, Gary? What brings you here tonight? Carol asked you.
That's it. That's entirely it. And thank you, Jose. But Carol, could I not be on the same show with Jose, because he is a very tough act to follow. That's all. I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry, David, what was the question?
No. I am very interested. Like me, you're finishing up a semester at Russell Sage. And how long have you been at, it's very funny. I knew there was a Gary Hoffman who worked at Russell Sage College. I knew there was a Gary Hoffman who did theater in the area, and I never connected the two, I think, until last year or 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. That
we were
was
teaching
all.
the same class, the same course, 2 different sections.
Yeah,
that's how we got to know each
we've
other.
always kind of taught on 2 different campuses, so we
Right.
haven't mixed that way, but then we ended up teaching the same course. Carol, are you going to read Gary's poem? Gary has chosen If, I believe.
Correct. And again, just for everyone, it is National Poetry Month, and Gary's favorite poem is If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them with worn out tools. If you can make 1 heap of all your winnings and risk it on 1 turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the best part of working with Carol. We always have poetry.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. Gary, I guess my first question is what sort of came first for you? Was it military, law, or theater, or did they all combine?
Well, sometimes they combined, but truth be told, starting at 7, military and law were not options for me just yet.
Mhm.
So I went with theater.
So you went with
And
theater.
that's right.
Mhm.
My parents were both in a community production of the musical Bells Are Ringing.
Mhm.
And my older brother was ushering for the show. And it ran 3 weekends, I believe. And right before the second weekend, one of the ensemble had a death in her family. She was unable to complete the run, but she did an offstage voice of a 5-year-old boy. And the director was looking around before they went up that second weekend, and he looked down at me and he said, "Can you read?" And I said, "Yes." And he handed me the script and he asked me to read the offstage voice. So I was 7 years old doing a 5-year-old. And I think that was the last show my parents did. And that was the first show for me. And I haven't really stopped since then,
And a star was born.
or at least a supporting role. Yeah.
Right. But theater works really well as a family affair. Do you do theater with your family? Have you done theater with your current family?
Yes, I have.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I met my wife, Melissa Putterman Hoffman, when I did 1776 at SLOC some 32 years ago, 33 years ago. Yes. She was doing set decor design, and
Mhm.
I was cast as John Adams, and we met, and history was made.
That's great.
And I have Melissa is an actor and a director in her own right. And we've done several shows together at SLOC. In particular, we've done Curtains and Cabaret.
Mhm.
We've done a couple of shows together at Not So Common Players. We did Fiddler on the Roof and The Music Man. For LAGS, Local Actors Guild of Saratoga, we were in the production of Diary of Anne Frank. We played Anne's parents.
Mhm.
We also played parents of that same actor when SLOC did Legally Blonde.
Okay.
So yes, we are a theater family of sorts.
Yeah.
Our daughter Jill doesn't do theater, but she did do a production of Oliver with Melissa when Jill was younger. Our son Nate has been on stage, and he's now doing film.
Yeah. It's great activity for families to do together. So I'm interested. You've mentioned your directing. You've mentioned your acting. I'm interested when you got started directing, and if you prefer one or the over the other.
I started to direct productions in high school,
Mhm.
and I continue with that as an assistant director in college. And which do I prefer? It depends on the production. It depends on the company, depends on the cast, depends on how much I've done of one and not the other. I've been directing I've been directing exclusively for the past 3 years, and I'm looking forward to being on stage again.
Yeah.
So I have my sights set for a couple of shows in the coming season in the local community theater community.
Mhm.
And I will be directing for SLOC at the end of next season in May of next year, the musical It Should Have Been You.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Um, That's good. What's been your most challenging piece to put up?
I would say anything Sondheim.
How how so? I've never directed Sondheim, and I guess I'd like to. But what's challenging?
Um,
Everything.
well, really everything. His music in particular is challenging. Now, I'm not the music director. When I've directed, I am very deferential to whomever is the music director. When we did Merrily We Roll Along, there are many transitional pieces during which the ensemble sings, but sets change. So that was challenging, choreographing the set changes along with getting the ensemble singing and doing whatever business they have to be doing. Also, during some of the songs, there are bits of significant dialogue. So when trying to put a rehearsal schedule on a calendar, it's particularly challenging to put aside time for acting and blocking, and then putting aside time for the singing and putting aside the time for choreography, and trying to waste as little of everyone's time as possible. Certainly you don't want actors hanging out, waiting an hour until they have something else to do. So when all of that, all of those moving pieces have to move in synchronization, it's difficult. Everybody wants a piece of their time to work with the cast, and no one wants to waste anyone's time, and everyone wants to get the work done. So that's where the challenges were for that particular production.
Mhm. No, I think, and I know I have students on here tonight, and I think it's interesting to, see how the sausage gets made. I don't know if people, audiences know or care.
Mhm.
But what goes into making it is as challenging as what you just said. It's really tough to put together all the time that you have to get
Yes.
work done. Do you sing as well? I guess it's Air Schultz you sung as Wilbur, you sung, yeah.
Yes,
Not
I do. I do
Yeah.
sing. I'm not cutting any albums,
Uh-huh.
but I do sing, at least passively,
Yeah. Yeah.
enough that they cast me in these roles that require me to sing.
That's good. That's good. Do you have a favorite show? Not maybe that you've worked on or you've done, but something that's just your go-to?
I have several favorites for different reasons.
Mhm.
Bells Are Ringing is a favorite of mine because it's the first show I ever did,
Mhm.
and I'm very fond of the story.
Yeah.
And Guys and Dolls essentially started me on a path beyond being an extra or being part of the ensemble and not going anywhere. I was in high school and I'd been cast in a secondary supporting role. And the fellow who was cast as Nathan Detroit was not taking his responsibilities seriously. And the teacher, this was a class, not just a club, this was an actual class for which we were being graded. He told this student, if you don't straighten out, Hoffman's going to be in your role wearing your suit. So straighten up and fly right, or you're done. He never straightened up. He was done. So 3 weeks before we opened, I was cast in the role of Nathan Detroit, and that's what put me out there.
Mhm.
So Nathan Detroit, that particular role in Guys and Dolls is another favorite. 1776, I met my wife, so that is, of course, a favorite. And I've always been very fond of the story, the truth anyway, about the founding fathers, and in particular John Adams, who was an unsung hero. So 1776 has to be among my favorites. And finally, I would say the Fantasticks, because my older brother Howard introduced me a lot to musical theater. We used to listen to an FM radio station out of New Jersey, and this station played a program called Curtain Time. And a few times a week, they would play the original cast albums from different musicals. So my brother Howard let me listen in on that stuff, and I became intrigued. And when he was in college, he was on the technical side. He didn't venture on stage, at least since elementary school. He would run lights, or he would run sound, or he was a stage manager. And one time we went to see him at college, and they were putting on the Fantasticks, and I fell in love with one particular character. And I remember thinking, if I go to college and they're doing this show, I want that role. And fast forward 10 years, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So all of those are my favorite.
They're all good ones to have. And I've been in 1776 3 times, and I
Yes.
think that's the kind of show you can just age into different parts and just keep doing it forever. It's a great piece.
Yes.
Piece.
I try to do it once every 30 years, whether I need to or not.
Right. So I want to ask a law question here for a minute. I spend some of my time in the summer teaching lawyers communication skills, and I'm curious. Did you have, in your law career, did you work at trial? Were you doing that kind of work?
I did. When I first started my military career, I was assigned as one of the post prosecutors at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And so I did courts martial, and I also did administrative hearings. I was also cross-deputized as a special assistant U.S. attorney. That empowered me to prosecute civilians who broke the law on military property, not just our installation, but other minor federal offenses. So I did trial work in magistrate's court as well. And I did my share of administrative hearings when I came off of active duty and joined the National Guard here in New York. I did a lot of administrative hearings in my 20 years with the Guard.
Where have you found theater and the law overlapping in your work?
Trying to win the hearts and minds of whoever the trier of fact is, be it a board panel at an administrative hearing, or the impaneled officers that comprise a military jury, to convince them that you're right and that they have to go with you on that.
Right. And it's a real skill. I mean, I think a lot of good lawyers are good actors, or at least aware of good storytelling technique to get that.
And sometimes it's bluffing.
Yeah, right. And you worked in the Law and Society. You work in the Law and Society program at Sage. What classes do you teach?
Well, currently I'm teaching white collar crime, and I'm also teaching human resilience. Each semester I tend to get a law course and something else, be it English or psychology or sociology, something with a legal slant somewhere inserted. But I've also taught administrative law. I've taught criminal law, other criminal justice courses along the way.
Yeah.
Business law.
What has it been like for you teaching during COVID, in and around COVID?
Very challenging, in that you have to make yourself entertaining for an extended period of time on a little screen. I like to pace around. I like to sit on desks. I like to sit down in front of students on their desks. And you can't do that when you're doing a video broadcast. Some of my broadcasts were pre-recorded. I like to go live. Sometimes I had to pre-record, and then I would edit. And I found editing to be very lengthy and involved. Particularly if I thought I had put something on pause, and the next thing I know, I look up and the video is still running and still recording, and there's 5 pages of me scratching my head while I'm reviewing my notes. And no, I'm not going to put that on and subject students to that. I've got to edit out 5 minutes of me scratching my head.
Yeah, it's been a challenging, interesting time.
But I also think our students rose to the occasion, as challenging as it was.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about teaching resilience.
Mm,
Teachers and or students and faculty are living through it in a
yes,
lot of ways.
yes.
And resilience in theater too. I mean, I imagine, like the rest of us, you had 2 years of doing very little except waiting for theater to happen. Uh,
Yes.
you're on the board at both Albany Civic and SLOC.
Schenectady Civic. I've not yet been on the board at Albany Civic, but yes,
Yeah,
and I was on the board at SLOC at the time we had to suspend the season in
yeah.
March of 2020.
I was going to ask, what is it like to be on boards of theaters during COVID, and how did you pivot? Or
We got resourceful.
Mhm.
We got resourceful. When something like this happens, you realize how much of the company's income relies on ticket sales,
Right.
but the bills still have to come and get paid, even if the tickets aren't being sold. So, uh, managing the resources, managing whatever income was coming in, um, paying bills as best we could.
Mhm.
Interestingly, the Schenectady County DA's office, when COVID hit, needed a space to spread out its grand jury jurors.
Mm.
And so we made an arrangement whereby we rented out our theater when we weren't doing shows so that the Schenectady DA's office could uh, convene their grand juries.
That's great.
So we got some income from them, a little bit of theater and law converging. Um, and we also had a telethon, or we had other fundraisers. We did Zooms. There was one Zoom where a couple of dozen of us from the community theater community sang a parody of the song "We'll Be Back." I'll be back from Hamilton, and it was "We'll Be Back," singing about, okay, SLOC is closed right now, but we're going to come back stronger, and we're going to have live performances soon.
Yeah,
And we did.
I think I did one of the dramaturgy panels with SLOC, and that was a fun afternoon. A lot of fun people. So if we want to see your upcoming work, we would go out to Clifton Park for Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
That's right. It'll be outdoors. It opens June 3rd. It runs that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. And then it reopens the following Thursday and runs that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings.
What are the challenges you look forward to or anticipate with Forum?
Challenges, whenever you appear outdoors, the mosquitoes probably won't be as much in season as they usually are in mid-July. That's when this group usually does its summer shows. Another summer show will be following ours. This is the first time they're doing two of them back to back outdoors. The one that comes after Forum will be Nice Work if you can get it, sometime in mid-July. And that will also run 2 consecutive weekends. Weather is unpredictable.
Yeah.
I know that when we did Music Man, we had to cancel a performance or 2 on account of thunderstorms. No one wants to sit through those. No one wants to perform through those. So you're at the mercy of the elements. That's one challenge. And keeping everybody hydrated, because it can get hot. A lot of times you're wearing layers and layers of costuming, some of them that don't breathe well, and you're under hot lights and you're dancing or you're singing or you're doing something, and you have to make sure that no one succumbs to the heat. Those are the challenges. What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to the production team, the actors, and the audience having a good time.
Yeah. Well, you ought to have lots of laughs on that. And so it's always fun to look forward to laughs.
Yes, we need it.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I want to open it up to some questions. Let's see if anyone has anything they want to put in the chat, or someone has mentioned Hi, Douglas Holliday. Shakespeare, have you done any Shakespeare plays? What makes his plays challenging for you, and do you have a favorite?
I have not done any Shakespeare plays, Douglas. It's not my forte. Um, I've enjoyed reading Shakespeare, and I enjoy being in the audience for Shakespeare, but I've not dabbled.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I never will. It's not at the top of my list of things to do, but ultimately I think I will do a Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have a favorite, comedy or tragedy?
A Midsummer Night's Dream
Mhm. Okay.
is probably my favorite Shakespeare. As a matter of fact, our son had been in a production of that when he was attending SUNY Schenectady. And maybe that is also a factor.
Yeah. Sheila London has jumped in and said, great interview. Thanks, Gary. Good luck on all your projects.
Thank you, Sheila.
Yeah. And Douglas Holliday, thank you for your honest answer, Gary.
Of course. Thank you for your question.
You
I hope it wasn't a disappointing answer.
Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
Good. Angeli asked, in regard to directing in theater, what do you think is the most important quality a director should have? It's a great question.
Patience. Patience for performers, patience for the production team, the crew, and patience with the director's own self. Because, and particularly in community theater, where you're doing it for the fun, no one's getting paid usually. So you better be doing it for fun. And if it isn't fun, then you're doing it wrong. Someone's doing something wrong. I tell cast and crew when I start out, if I have said or done something that bothers you, or you're not having fun, then I'm doing something wrong. Correspondingly, if you don't let me know about it, then you're doing something wrong. But everybody's there to have a good time, and it's never going to be perfect. Directors go into directing shows with a vision of what their final product would be. But we're all human. Everyone contributes as much as he or she can, and that doesn't always add up to the perfect picture.
Yeah.
So you settle and you be patient along the way. And
How long
so
how long did it take you to learn that patience?
I'm going to be 64 in a couple of months. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Good. Kaylee asked, like a time where maybe, was there ever a time where something went so wrong you decided to stop?
Well, certainly during a rehearsal, yes. Not that I recall ever during an actual performance. That's an excellent question. We dabbled with that once. I was in a production of Neil Simon's Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and there's a point in the action where one of the characters gets very angry while he's sitting in an armchair, and he tears one of the arms off of the chair. Well, of course, we had the props folk pre-rig the chair so that the arm would come off, but also be affixed after every performance. Well, one night he pulled the arm off and a piece of the chair went sailing into the audience and hit an audience member in the eye. And we kept looking at each other, continuing with the dialogue, but we also kept one eye out to the audience to see what was going on. We could hear a commotion. We knew that the stage manager or the house manager had brought ice over to the patron, and we did not know if we were going to have to stop the action or not. We didn't. We weren't told to. The stage manager's in control, and if the stage manager didn't stop us, we keep going.
Right. We have Douglas again asking about Arsenic and Lace is a great play. Would you consider doing that play?
I would consider doing that, Douglas. It is a wonderful play. I've seen it done several times, a couple of times right here in our community, the Capital Region. It's done so much that many groups hesitate to put it into their season again, because ultimately audiences who have been followers and patrons of a particular theater group think, well, aren't there other plays? Aren't you going to do something else besides Arsenic and Old Lace? And of course, other shows are done, but Arsenic and Old Lace is done a lot. Just like The Odd Couple is done a lot. As wonderful as each play is in its own right, the audiences want variety. They want to see something different, as well as, you know, the old chestnuts. But yes, I would like to do it again. I think I'm gonna have to wait a few more years, so it's timely to be done again.
Well,
Thanks for that question.
we have Kaylee asking, I did theater as a child and forgot my lines all the time. Were there ever any embarrassing moments other than the chair incident?
Fortunately, nothing I ever did on stage ever caused an injury in the audience. I'm pleased about that. There was one time I was playing Mr. Applegate in Damn Yankees. Applegate is the devil character. And I had a solo. And in my solo number, I had concealed in the palm of my hand a spring-loaded vinyl cane. So when you flip the switch, it telescoped out at both ends and formed a cane already wrapped. And it worked every time I did that during rehearsals and during performances, except during one performance. I flipped the switch and it unraveled on both ends and just kind of hung there like fly tape hanging
Yeah.
from the ceiling.
Yeah.
So the audience laughed and I just stared at it, trying to think of something clever to say. And then I came up with it and I rewrapped the cane so it would be a cane. And I said, never buy anything in Chicago during a fire sale.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, anyone who's done theater has got a lot of those stories.
Live theater can't be beat.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Good. Okay, any other questions? Haha, great answer, says Kaylee.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Yeah. Any other questions tonight?
None.
Okay,
All very good.
well, all very good. Well, thank you very much, Gary. Thank you to both you and Jose. It's been great having you both tonight.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Carol, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm very honored.
Thank you so much, Gary. It was a fabulous interview for both you and Jose. All of you fine people in the audience, we appreciate you taking the time and effort. So we have to give you the claps all the way through. Thank you so much. Don't forget, check your calendars for Gary and Jose. Check them out on Facebook and, you know, put their events on your calendar so you can support them. And we'll be back. The semester's over for now, but you know, check Facebook for Stage and Stanza. Hopefully we'll be in person and you'll get to see our fabulous faces, reach out, we can, you know, hug with consent and have fun in person. Everybody stay safe. Have a great rest of the week, weekend, month, springtime, year, and see you soon. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all so much.
Good night, everybody. Thanks to Opalka, David, Amy, Judy, and of course, Gary and Jose. See you all
Thank
soon.
you, Carol.